morning, everyone, and welcome to the Future of Europe TV show. We are international and European law students from the Catholic University of Lille. I am Maya, and here is Claire. And Claire is here with me today in order to talk about the European Union's environmental commitment and more specifically about state aid. Thanks, Claire.
Good morning, Maya. Thank you. Indeed, I decided to work on the case Austria versus Commission, also called the Kidney Point C case law from 2020. In this case, a new challenge has been raised before the Court of Justice, whether state aid can be justified in favor of nuclear energy. Indeed, the Court of Justice remained the Commission, which is the competent authority concerning state aids, the condition for the application of state aid. One of the major one is the following of the common interests of the EU, such as environment. Following this reasoning, many points have been raised. The aim of the state aid has to pursue the objective of the treaty and respect the internal markets, but it should also be in adequation with the environmental objective of the EU.
Okay, thanks, Claire. And in this case, precisely, how does the state have to respect the objectives of the treaties of the European Union? Can you please explain it to us?
Sure. State aids can be controversial, as it must ensure common interests of the states and of the EU. Member states have to demonstrate that the aids provided have the aim of a well-defined objective of common interests, which needed the state intervention. Indeed, states cannot intervene in internal markets without a real need of intervention.
Okay, and what is the opinion of the court about internal market protection?
As mentioned by Professor Michaud, state aid can be an effective tool to improve the market functioning of the states. But it is easy to understand that aids by the state helps a company and therefore affect trading. The Court of Justice points out that the common interests of the markets have to be taken into consideration and not only the internal market of the states. It also has to take into account the EU-level interests. With this judgment, the Court gave a broader duty to the Commission to check if state aid comply with the EU interests and gave two mandatory conditions for it.
What are these conditions?
The first one is the development of certain economic activities facilitated by state aid, and the second one, that state aid should not have to affect trading conditions to an extent contrary to the common interests, meaning that the aids must contribute to a well-defined objective of common interests, and that the intervention is a must-needed intervention, as Susan Kingston explained.
You also mentioned the environmental objectives of the EU that such aids have to fulfill. But how do state aids impact actually these environmental principles? Can you please explain it to us?
Sure. In our case, Austria versus Commission, the polluter pays principle is minimized because of the state aid. Indeed, state aid may have distortive effects on the markets, as companies may not feel the financial impact of the polluter pays principle. The Court of Justice understands these consequences of state aid and reminds the Commission that it should check that activity does not infringe rule of EU law of environmental law. And if any of the provision of the state aid infringe the environmental rules, it would have the obligation to declare this aid incompatible with the internal markets. The court also points out that the protection of the environment and health of the citizens is one of the values of the European Union, and it is the reason why the aids given by the state for energy sector must comply with environmental law.
Thanks, Claire, for all of these really interesting informations. Do you have anything to add in order to enlighten our audience?
Yes, I would like to conclude by saying that one of the top priorities of the EU today is to protect and to prevent environmental issues. According to an INSEE survey from 2019, 90% of the young generation feel concerned about environmental issues. And more recently, during the French presidential election, we saw that the issue of ecology was at the heart of the debates. whereas a few years ago it was not only or only very rarely raised, which show that environmental issue is a concern of today.
And okay, so you talked about the national level, the French national level, but what about at a more international, globalized scale?
The progress also needs to be made at the international level. As we saw recently with the Paris Agreements of 2016, which was only signed by 55 countries. This showed that we need to make more efforts. At the European level, the energy transition have to be developed, and even more today as we realize with the war that we do not have access to all of the fossil energy that we might need. We can see some progress with, for example, a tax on non-recycled plastic that came into force on 1st January 2021, but in my opinion, it is not enough yet to see real progress.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much, Claire, for your very interesting inputs. It has been an honor to host you on this program, and I will see you next time for a new episode of The Future of Europe. Goodbye.